This video is about how to choose a publisher, and that's a bit of a trick question because generally most first-time authors who are publishing their book aren't going to have a lot of actual publishers competing for their project. So a real publisher is someone who won't take any money to publish your book. They publish your book for free, they take care of the book design and I want to say marketing, but actually they probably won't do very much marketing for you. A lot of authors want a publishing deal because they think publishers will promote their book. That's almost never the case unless you have a really big audience and you can get a really large advance, which means they're invested in your project and they really have to market your book to make money. It's a lot more likely that if you get a real publisher, they'll give you a smaller advance of 5 or 10K, and then they're really just investing in a lot of projects and hoping some of them get big, but they're not really going to spend lots of money supporting or marketing your book. That's still fine if that's the way that you want to go. But like I said, I don't think you're going to have tons of competing offers. If you do, that's great. What I want to caution you against is that there's a lot of new services in the marketplace that call themselves publishers. So they say they're small presses or they're small publishers. There are some legit ones who won't charge you to publish the book, and those are hit and miss because sometimes they can have great intentions and they really love literature and they love your project, but even if they know something about publishing, maybe they're not the best book designers, maybe they don't really know a lot about book marketing, so you could end up signing and giving away a lot of your royalties. And it's nice to have someone helping you out and helping you publish, but if they can't make the book successful, ultimately that's not a great choice for you. And then there's a lot of other services that are vanity presses or vanity services. And it's a weird distinction, but generally a vanity press is anything that you pay to publish. But I don't like the term because there's a lot of small publishing houses or presses that are basically just offering you services, but they charge money for the services. The danger is that they make their money from authors, which means you are paying them for book design, for potentially marketing, for editing services. That's where they make the money. So they're not incentivized to promote the book for you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad. It doesn't necessarily mean they're just a vanity press because they're providing a service. There's a lot of authors who want to publish their book. A lot of authors don't want to be self-published. They don't want the stigma, even though there's not really that much of a stigma anymore. They don't want the hassle of trying to figure out how to build a website or book formatting or book uploading the files to Amazon or whatever, distribution, marketing. It can be really overwhelming. So a lot of authors would rather get a deal even if it means they're paying. And so here's the difference. If you self-publish, and even that term, a lot of my friends prefer the word indie publishing because you're never really self-publishing. You have a team. You have to curate your own team. You find your own cover designer. You find your own editor. If you pay the service providers directly, like if you find an editor who's the best editor for your book, that's where you want to spend the money. If you find the best book cover designer who is an expert at best-selling book covers for your genre, that's where you want to send your money. You don't want to put all of your money to a management team who publishes books of all different genres and topics, and then they farm out the work to specific service providers and pay them less, because then they're really just charging generally about double, sometimes triple what you would pay yourself for project management. And that's still fine. A lot of authors prefer that because then they have someone in their corner, they have someone they can call anytime and discuss their project, but you have to recognize you're paying for glorified hand-holding. It's great to get a professional. I'm not saying that all small publishers who charge for services are necessarily evil because it's a business. They're providing a business that authors are willing to pay for. However, it can also be a very scammy business because there are a lot of unscrupulous small businesses that prey on would-be authors. So there's a lot of there's some red flag signs, but generally if they try to get you on the phone first, if they don't show you their prices, but then they try to get you on the phone to hard sell you basically, or if they email you out of the blue, like if you didn't submit a manuscript but they email you and they say, we love your project, we want to publish you, I would be really cautious about that. The more that they say like, we love your book, we want to publish you, we want to take care of everything, we're going to do all this stuff for you, and then they just ask you for some fees, like, but you just have to pay for professional editing or something. They charge you several $1,000s for that. You need to be careful. The more, like, they're making their money from you paying to publish your book, and they're not really going to be incentivized to promote the book or to market the book. But that said, even a small press that's not charging you any money to publish your book, and even if they're giving you an advance, they may not know anything about book marketing and promotion, so they make their money by publishing lots and lots of books, maybe hundreds of books, and making some sales of some books, or hoping that some books sell really well, but maybe they're not really book marketers. And it's very difficult, I think, to give away control of your book marketing to someone else. I know a lot of authors who just want, a PR person or a marketer to do everything for them. It's the best way to market books is to build your own audience and to build quality relationships with other authors in your genre or on your subject topic for nonfiction books. So if you're giving up control of building your audience and you're not making those personal relationships, book marketing isn't going to work that well anyway. People can get you lots of visibility, but it's not going to lead to long-term sales. And if they didn't focus on the basics, which means cover design, formatting, and the sales description, if they didn't really blow those out of the park and do an amazing job, it's going to be difficult to get sales anyway, even if you get tons of visibility. So visibility is usually not the problem for most indie authors. It's the basic stuff that they didn't get right the first time. So my question of how to choose publishers, it's almost a misleading question. I don't think you're going to have that many options. You need to be aware of and cautious about any publishers or services who give you a publishing package. I was on one today, not a very nice looking website. They had a lot of publishing packages. They were, and they're generally like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, something like that. They cost an average of $1,500, $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, which is a ton of money to publish your book. I'm gonna make another video about how much it costs to publish your book, but generally you can spend less than $2,000 and get a high quality book published. I have friends who publish less than $500 and they get a high quality book published, including cover design, as long as you know the best service providers who are underpricing because they're new or something like that. So you can definitely pay a lot less to publish your book. I would be skeptical of like a publishing package, because that means they're really just a project manager and they're farming out all the services. And I would be skeptical of what they're including, because they'll generally include a lot of things that you want. They'll say like an author website, or they'll say a press distribution release, and they'll say it costs a lot of money, but really for $50 you can do a very high quality press release and get all of the same benefits. So you want to be careful about, they're going to be offering you things that they know you want because you don't know what you're doing, but actually don't sell any books. So don't pay more for a bunch of services that aren't going to sell books for you, because the most important thing is really the quality of the product itself and the author platform and relationships that you're building, and they're very difficult to give away to somebody else to manage for you. So it's possible to have a virtual assistant who does promotion for you. It's possible to have a project manager or PR person if they know what they're doing. But a lot of the people who sell those really high priced products, they're in the old school publishing, so they're trying to use traditional publishing marketing tactics that don't work for self-publishing authors. They probably don't know a lot about how to boost your sales rank on Amazon, or how to get more Amazon reviews, or how to get more visibility for your book online. That's where the easy stuff, that's where the magic is going to happen. Anything that you're doing in real time, like if you're going to events or you're speaking on the radio, that happens once. It's going to have a very limited audience and marketplace. What you really want to be doing is focusing on online content that is long-term and brings you new readers all the time on autopilot. So every piece of content that you put out is going to bring in new readers. So if you put out 10 pieces of content, this month, and at the end of the year, you have 100 pieces of content that brings you thousands of new readers every month. That's a long-term stable author platform, and you're not going to have to keep paying for it to get more visibility or to sell more books. So those are some considerations and some cautions. I think it's a really ugly marketplace right now. I think there are way more authors who are desperate and eager to have a book that is successful. They really believe in their book, and they're willing to spend a lot of money promoting their book. And there's a lot of businesses who are not necessarily scrupulous, who will take your money and they'll do a fine job. Hopefully they'll do a fine job of at least giving you what they promised. But after they've done all those things, the book is probably not going to sell. And that's, I don't want to say a waste of money. If it's worth it to you to spend 5 or 10 grand and get your book in print and have it published and feel satisfied, that's great. But if you want to make a living as a writer and earn back more than you spend on publishing, then you have to be careful about where your money is going and what you're actually paying for. So you do need to be careful about any so-called publisher who is charging you for services rather than a publisher who gives you an advance. There are some publishers who don't give you an advance, but they do a really high quality job of all the services, and then they split some of the earnings. I think that's a totally valid model that allows them to take on a lot more authors. And I've seen some who have great cover designs. I'm a cover designer, so I will always be most focused on getting the best cover design you can, because that's so crucial for the success of your book. But I hope this video helped a little bit. If you're considering different publishing options, when you're choosing a publisher, you're probably actually going to be choosing services who do book design and possibly book formatting. That's all it takes to publish a book. After that, you're looking at marketing and promotion services or building an author website, which are different things. So I would personally hire the best person for the specific job that you need, rather than hiring a project manager who's going to do everything for you and use a team to get all the pieces right. I'm not saying that that doesn't work. I'm just saying you're probably overpaying for not companionship, but for hand holding. And that's totally fine if you don't want to learn everything about self-publishing, if you don't want to learn about everything that has to do with putting a book out there on Amazon and marketing it. It can be, if you have more money than time to learn all this stuff, then it can be very worthwhile to pay someone else to do it for you. There's nothing wrong with that model, except there are a lot of small publishing houses or presses who have gone out of business recently because maybe they know enough about publishing and they publish a lot of authors, but they don't know enough about marketing to make money with the books, which means eventually they go belly up, they go out of money, they run out of money basically. A lot of small presses have gone out of business suddenly without paying royalties to their authors because they just didn't have any money because the books weren't earning. Which is a disadvantage if you start working with a smaller press that's maybe new or doesn't have a huge clientele, or if they publish lots of different types of books. Like if on their homepage they say we publish these books and they just publish anything and their homepage is just a bunch of random books in totally different genres, that also means they don't have a targeted audience. So if they don't publish a certain kind of book, they're not going to be building a reader list to sell those kinds of books, which means they're not really going to be able to do very much marketing for you, because the best book marketing is a very targeted list of readers that appreciate a certain type of books, which is what BookBub does. They have a very segmented list, so they have certain lists for certain genres. If they're a publisher who just publishes everything, they're not going to be able to market your books because they aren't building a very targeted list for a particular genre. So if you can find a publisher who publishes, nonfiction business or spiritual self-help or young adult fiction, young adult sci-fi fantasy, if you can find a publisher that focuses on one thing, that's going to be better for you because they're going to be better about publishing that kind of book, and they're going to have a list of readers that they've been building to sell their books, ideally. So that's something you might want to look for if you're choosing a publisher.